Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast channel. This is episode 158, and I got my man Lewis joining me. Lewis, uh, the wound healed, but the scar's still there.
Yeah, I am. I'm not wearing Juve stuff till Wednesday, so
Yeah,
right parts of Zuri gear.
yeah, there you go. Nice striped hearts gear, at least.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, everybody that's joining us, we are obviously going to recap a complete disaster. Juve dropping the match 3-0 to Milan there. Milan gets their first victory in Allianz Stadium. We'll talk about that. But of course, if you're joining us, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It all helps. And of course, check out sponsor Striped Hearts Apparel and check it out. Alex coming in, morning lads, morning Alex. Wish it was a better circumstance we'd be talking about, but we cover all the matches no matter what happens, and we're going to do the same here. And then we're going to get a little bit deeper and probably take a broader look at some perspective of what's kind of happened and what's gone on. Not get into a lot of the rants we're seeing out there and a lot of the just frustration, which is completely understandable, but we're going to try and take a little bit more of an in-depth look. Hey, Lewis?
Okay.
Now, let's start off with this match. We got the lineups out there. I know that some of the projections before we even got there didn't have De Ligt in the lineup, which I just thought was ridiculous. And I said, let's wait till we actually see this because I doubt our best defender there would not be in the lineup. The lineup come out. I was a little shocked not to see Danilo there, and people said the lineup was fine, and I agree. I didn't have major issues with the lineup, other than we were still going to see this hybrid role for McKennie that actually has kind of gone down. McKennie's been struggling ever since that hip injury. He just has never quite been the same. But it just, the hybrid thing kind of faded for him and that role kind of faded. So, and the reason I wanted Danilo in that lineup, of course, you lock up the right side. It also moves Cuadrado, who's obviously, look at his assist contributions. It moves him further up the pitch. But Danilo, the biggest thing about Danilo is the attitude. When we've allowed goals, he's usually the first to run in, grab that ball, and get the team going again. He's not scared to commit, join in the rush, add to the offense, try and create some havoc if teams are going to sit back there, and we needed that. And I was shocked not to see Danilo in there. Outside of the rest of the lineup, Morata, Ronaldo, Bentancur, Rabiot, Chiesa, McKennie, Sandro Chiellini, De Ligt, Szczesny, and Cole. Outside of that, I didn't really have many issues. Lewis, your quick thoughts on the lineup that we had in there?
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about it was just a flat 4-4-2. Because again, like you get rid of the hybrid role and it becomes that weird thing where Cuadrado can't run up and down the flank because Weston McKennie's standing right there the whole time. So that's the only thing I really didn't like about it. I saw some shouts for Dybala in there. I understand that what Pirlo in theory was trying to do. A lot of the times you'll see teams double mark Ronaldo because we have no midfielder, so Dybala has to play as a center mid almost.
Yeah.
But the result, I guess, says that maybe the lineup wasn't the best.
I don't even know. Honestly, like watching this match, it would have taken Maradona and Baggio, to save us out of this one because everybody was just really so poor. You go through some of the highlights in the first half here, and there's really just not much to get. Just to be happy about if you're Juventino. I mean, probably our best opportunity was 3 minutes in when De Ligt tries to volley one from the side off a corner that gets there and it gets blocked. And then outside of that, I mean, it was just a massive amount of errors. Just so frustrating to watch. 14th minute, Rabiot gets a shot blocked. We're starting to put them under. And then he takes a stupid foul on the follow-up. When the defender's in a tough position to try and clear this ball, we could press him. He just lets them out. of trouble by taking a dumb foul in the area. Like, this is what's so frustrating is like you're in the area, you've got him pinned in there. The guy's just going up for an aerial. He puts his leg right up there, like he's right in this dude's face, and I'm just like, man, come on. We got guys in good position. Like, you got to be smarter than that, right? 17th minute, we got a great chance for a counter. Morata, Jesus. I don't know if he hasn't been getting enough protein or what the case is, man. Like, he couldn't even make this pass to Chiesa, who's running up the byline. Like, he literally put it so slow. The defender had time to stop, plant his feet, and then the ball got to him. And I'm like, it's just frustrating mistakes like that over and over and over. Morata's hold-up play as well as Ronaldo's was poor. Morata in the 23rd minute, he gave it away to Milan 30 yards away from our goal. He literally passed it back, and there was nobody in sight other than a Milan player. I think he gave it to Çalhanoğlu. And then Çalhanoğlu's coming at us, and I'm like, what the heck? They ended up getting an opportunity after that, and I'm just thinking, what are we doing here? 25th minute, a good opportunity to catch Milan out, and Donnarumma's way out too, and Bentancur can't hit CR7, who's about, I don't know, what, 12, 13 feet away?
CR7, by the way, didn't touch the ball in the box the entire first half.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. And then, actually, I was wrong about De Ligt being the best opportunity we missed, because Chiellini had pretty much a free header in the 29th minute, and he didn't hit target with that one, which hurt. And then, of course, 45th minute, a foul by Chiesa way out on the byline. And I mean, it sure, kind of an undisciplined foul, but I mean, out there, who you're really not too concerned, right? But what ensued, my God, Tech should just catch that easily, and we move on. He punches it out. Brahim settles it, and Szczesny's still out there. Like, I'm watching him, and I'm like, man, just try to track back a bit. And nobody was quick enough to close down on Brahim. He made a hell of a shot. Chiellini standing in goal. He jumps up, tries to head it out. And there you are, 1-0 at halftime. And this was unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Like, for a game like this to be just completely lost. Bentancur, absolutely awful. McKennie didn't look like he knew where to go. And the problem is, again, this set of this hybrid setup, okay? And then McKennie trying to operate in there. He's just not a transitional player. He's good from the mid when he's making those late runs, late entries in, but half the time we're so slow in trying to counter this that it just wasn't working. It just was not working. And it hasn't for quite some time. I still think we would have been better off loading up the right side with Danilo and Quad, getting Quad to be the guy that slides up there. But you watch our midfield goes all over the place. McKennie and Bentancur, there was no communication whatsoever. When McKennie filled in inside centrally, Bentancur would slide right back into where he was, not even looking at the fact that McKennie's kind of slid in there now, so stay out to that side, right? It was just a mess, man. Complete mess of the first half. You got anything to add on the first half?
No, this looks like a team that has no idea what the hell they're doing. I mean, it just looked like it's 11 individuals just running around with their heads cut off, just like trying to play football, but like not really doing anything. And not just players passes to each other, but like I don't even understand tactically how they were trying to set up against Milan. Like the last time we played Milan, the big thing was to expose them on the flanks, and this time we just went away from that. It's very, very weird. And what you said about the hybrid, it's very true, because like even when Aaron Ramsey's in the hybrid role, he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And then they put Kulusevski there. He didn't look like he knew what he was doing either. Just something about that hybrid, they overthink it. And it just really frustrating to watch. And that goal was just, the thing that annoyed me about the goal was that Brahim Diaz literally has like 15 seconds on the ball. Everyone kind of just freezes and waits to see if Tech's going to get him or not. Nobody closes him down. So
it's just ridiculous too, because like I said, Szczesny, that's just an easy catch. There's no need to even punch that. But he punches it anyways, and then he's stuck there, and nobody closes down.
Yeah.
Diaz.
Buffon said it all on the touchline. That went in.
Unbelievable, man. Alex coming in here with disaster class from Benta. Never seen him this bad. Yeah, pretty much. AJ coming in. I missed the game, Al. How did your ideal Bonucci free center back pairing do? Yeah, I'm sure Bonucci would have saved the day and would have been the difference. Nah, I can't say that. Like I said, this thing, you could have put whatever lineup you wanted in there. Our team was flat. Absolutely flat. When you have your main midfielder that can't hit a pass all match, give me a break. We had one shot on target until the 79th minute or something? 80th minute or something, one shot on target. That's absolutely unacceptable. And sure, a center back is going to be the difference apparently in a match where you can't get any mids going.
Refresh me if I'm wrong, but who's the center back pairing last time we lost 3-0?
Yeah.
It's a total clash from the team.
Yeah, we're just completely flat. It was like I said, this matchup, you could have put whoever you wanted there in terms of these lineup. These were just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. 46-minute Bentancur. 1-2 with Morata. Stopped by Donnarumma. Probably finished up with our best chance. And that's saying a lot when he's on a disaster class, like Alex pointed out there. 55th minute. You knew this one was going to get called. Again, Brahim Diaz. And the part about this one that bothers me is if you watch Brahim Diaz gets the ball on the right flank. He literally runs by McKennie, who runs along with him, just alongside, as if they were going for a jog, like a couple buddies. So he just runs alongside her. And at one point, I'm like, just get in there, challenge him, tackle him, do something. He runs by. Bentancur then in turn stands there. So McKennie sees Bentancur there, and it's almost like he lets up. And Bentancur stands there and doesn't actually track with him until after Brahim gets a couple steps on him. And I'm thinking, guys, is somebody gonna actually challenge this guy? And then the whole defense, the defensive line is collapsing, and none of them stepped up either. And you're just thinking, man, is anybody gonna just close the space down here? He ends up taking one shot, gets blocked, it falls back to Brahim, and then he takes a second, and it hits Chiellini's arm. It's clear as day. That's getting called. Kessié steps up, and Szczesny stops a PK. Gives us life. Man, wake up call. Everybody's saying the same thing. All the UT, wake up call. Let's go. He's giving you life. Pick it up. Nothing. We're still too flat. There's just nothing there. 67th minute, 66, Bentancur with probably the best ball ever. Just skies this thing out into the 10th row or something. I'm just thinking, wow. I love how he looks at the ground too. Benta, come on, man.
I don't even know what he was trying to do there. I've defended Bentancur too on this podcast, but I don't even know what he was attempting to do there. I don't have any words for it.
Man, it was and he had just an easy ball on the ground.
That's what I mean.
I have no idea why he pumped that, and it was a minute later, and Pirlo said that's it. And who do you bring in? Kulusevski. So Kulusevski comes in for Bentancur. And then, nothing really changes. Surprise, surprise, because everybody's just just asleep. Rebic in the 77th. And again, I'm just left saying the same thing. How much space do these guys have? Rebic had so much time and space. Yeah. And the defense didn't close it down. And he just made a beauty shot. No chance for Tech. 2-0. And at that point, we were still at one shot on target. One shot on target in a do or die match. And the guys have space all over and just they played so scared, man. Even in the first half, like you look at this game, it's almost like we've been approaching matches like not to lose instead of going out playing to win. You know what I mean? It's just don't make mistakes, try not to lose instead of just going at it. And you could see it in the level of commitment from guys and the approach and just nobody getting in there. Nobody getting in there, helping, making overlapping runs, the movement off the ball. It's just not there. There's just nothing there to build off of. It's frustrating. 79th minute, Dybala gets subbed in for Chiesa. Man, after watching both Morata and CR like just not be able to do anything, like at one point I was saying just get Dybala in there, leave those guys up top, but let Dybala make up for the disaster that's happening in the middle of the park right now.
Yeah, I don't understand how you have a creative player on the bench, you play with no creativity for an hour, and you don't think, hey, maybe we should bring that player in.
Yeah.
I mean, at least at the hour mark. I mean, it's one of the big criticisms of Pirlo of many all year, but just sometimes the substitutions are just, it's almost like he forgets or he's just too stubborn to make them. Like it's just, I'm waiting that long in the match to make that sub. I mean, just, especially with Dybala's history against Milan, coming off the bench against Milan, it's a weird, I don't know how to explain it. Like to wait that long to make that change, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it was a strange one, man. It was a strange one to wrap heads around. And then, of course, 3 minutes later, Tomori adds a third. And again, it's just this weird zone thing that we do at the back, Like you watch Rabiot's on Tomori, and then all of a sudden he just lets off because the defensive line back there. But Chiellini's, he's got eyes on the ball coming in or whatnot, but Tomori just kind of comes in and Rabiot doesn't follow him through. And this whole zone thing, I've been saying for a while, they just need to clean things up and just get back to man. You know what I mean? Like if a guy, it doesn't matter if you're trying to keep your midfielders up for the trailing runs or guys that are waiting there to clean up the garbage. Because if you're man-to-man, that's handled anyways. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's either your guy stays out there or your guy runs in. But if your guy runs in, just stay with him.
Well, and if you're going to play zone, you have to have someone who's on the pitch to be like, hey, the zone's set up properly. Everyone knows what they're doing, which Juventus don't have. Who God knows what they're doing tactically in between.
And you've got that with even just in open play. Like there's this weird lapse between the mids and the defenders. And in this one, Milan picked it apart quite nicely. Even on the Rebic goal, you could watch that. It's just our guys get lost in the middle of the park there. Nobody has any idea. So 3-0, first time Milan has won in our new stadium in the 10 years it's been running. This was brutal. I've been following this team religiously for a long time. This was, it's getting closer and closer every week for me walking away from watching one of the matches.
I could safely say I didn't see the Tomori goal. I actually had to go watch the last 10 minutes when I agreed to do this because I was at Mother's Day dinner, and after the second goal, the stuff that was coming out of my mouth was not appropriate for Mother's Day dinner. So I figured I'd wrap it up now.
Oh, man.
That's the first time ever that I've just been so disgusted that I've walked away from a match.
I can deal with losses. I mean, shit, it's going to happen. Sports. I can't deal with a team that's got no soul.
That's just it. It's top to bottom. No leadership, no passion, no plan, no pride, no nothing. And you watch these players, and we're going to get into it later, but just from a player's perspective, post-match after this game, and this is not the first time this has happened. This goes back. It happened after Lyon. It happened after Porto. Juventus lose, and their captains go missing. We didn't hear anything from Chiellini. We didn't hear anything from Bonucci. Buffon didn't play fair. Nothing from Dybala. Nothing from Tech. Nothing from Ronaldo. your radio silence from many of their leaders. Against Porto, they sent Poor Chiesa to speak to the media, who's been a Juve player for 6 months. Against Lyon, they sent Danilo and De Ligt, who were new Juve players. I mean, it drives me up the wall that our leaders, these guys that are supposed to be locker room guys, just to help the younger guys, that's the example that they set. They didn't hear anything on social media yet, nothing. They're going to sit back and they're going to say it was something else. And they're the same guys that before matches, these core group of veterans, they'll give this speech, which I've mentioned often. I think I mentioned it last week on the podcast, where they'll say, oh, we're Juventus. We're used to playing in games like this. We thrive under pressure, and then immediately get destroyed under pressure. They do it every year in the European games, every time. And it's almost like yesterday they were like, well, we have Ronaldo, we have De Ligt, we have Chiellini, we have Dybala on the bench. We'll pull this out. It doesn't matter. They just stand around and they think because once upon a time we were a great side, we'll pull it out. And it's like, that's not how football works.
Yeah.
It's no effort, it's no drive, it's no passion, it's no setup. It's pathetic. That is what it is. And it was so embarrassing. And the way that we were trolled on Twitter afterwards, we deserved every bit of it.
Yeah, it's tough times, man. It's tough times. Like I said, I mean, as we were talking about the pre-match, the build up to this Milan match, and I had a Milan fan as the guest on the pre-match for Matchday Live. It was actually a journalist, big one for Sports 5 there, Asaf Ackerman, and he was talking about how nervous he was because of the way we finished the previous match and winning, and then the emotion in that celebration and everything, and he was saying, man, that scared me. It scared me that Juve pulled that off, and then all of a sudden, like, they got life, and you see it in the celebration and whatnot. And I was like, I'm not worried. Like, I'm not excited as I should be about it, because how many times this year have we had corner turning moments and then come out and shit the bed?
Yeah.
And just been totally flat. It sucks, but it's true, right? We just can't end up, we just don't end up doing that. But we're going to get into a mess of surrounding topics right now that are happening. We'll just touch on, say hi to some of the live guests that are joining. Adam says, Juventus Lou is my favorite guest. There you go. Look at that.
Thanks,
we got Vishwajit. What's up, Vishwajit? David Bruno joining us. Juve Daily coming in, stop and say hi. I just want to say hi and thank you, everybody, for joining in. And, of course, get those comments in on the next set of topics, because this is what everybody's discussing right now. And basically, when we get into it, we talk about this. Should Pirlo have gotten a black Monday? Should he have even made it to Monday? Lou, kick us off.
My gut says no, but he should have gotten the Black Monday. Probably should have been sacked, but it's also like there's 3 matches left. I mean, I think if he was going to get sacked, he probably would have did it a month ago, like when we weren't, able to win the league anymore. But I don't see how, Allegri is a great coach. Whoever, I don't know anything about Tudor as a coach, but I don't think that they fix necessarily anything before the season ends. I think the results are going to come no matter who's the coach. And it's a broken team, but I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. If there are people who say like, "Hey, he should have got the sack," I can't disagree with them either. So I'm kind of torn about it.
I think looking at this, a couple things stick out to me. Is just number one, I don't think it's necessarily as easy with Allegri as what it seems. It almost feels to me like they might be setting that up as maybe like a background, like a plan B or something. Maybe they do want somebody else, maybe they're waiting that way. There were some comments, saying, yeah, just fire him again. But 3 games left. Number one, if you are another manager, even if you're an experienced manager, do you even want to step in there right now, or do you want a fresh, clean slate next season?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really valid point, because I would think if you're someone like Max Allegri, who's been away from football for 2 years, why would you want to inherit a team with 3 games left miss the Champions League and then just start a step backwards, right? You know, like what if the Champions League is the deciding factor for a coach like that? You know, like what if we make Europa League and he's like, hey, you know, like I want to coach a Champions League team, you know? It in theory it's like, yeah, we can do this, but also like you realize like that's a top coach. Like it's not necessarily, you know, set in stone that he'll join without any incentives. And there's another flip side that is, if the club promises him incentives, will they actually give it to him? Because, you know, they told Sarri that they would build. They bought no players that fit Sarri's system, and then they fired him after he won the league. It's like you have to wonder, you know, will the club actually, do managers actually trust the club, trust the board, you know? Are they looking at this and be like, hey, this is a dumpster fire, I don't want any part of it, you know?
Well, and that's exactly it. So, you know, it's great that everybody wants Pirlo out and whatever. Sure, yeah, I'm all for it. But again, are we just going to go in circles and act irrationally, like, and do the same thing we just did that got us into this mess? Because moving on from Allegri, they just handled it so poorly. So poorly. You literally felt like they had somebody else in mind and then just ended up, okay, we'll do this. You know what else is funny too that nobody's talking about is that Paratici actually, the rumors before hiring Pirlo were that Paratici said, we don't have time to worry about another manager. Let's leave Sarri in there. What the fuck does that tell you about what's going on at that board level if this is how we're making certain judgments based on time and whatnot? Oh, we don't have time to worry about another coach. So, Agnelli goes out and Agnelli hires Pirlo for the head coaching job of Juve when he was hired, you know, to do the U23. He didn't even have a coaching certificate at the time, you know? So I posted a video from 9 months ago on this channel, the Juvecast channel, of me talking about the hiring. And I said, regardless of it being Pirlo, whoever the hell the name could have been, I said, what pissed me off about this was that the club had set themselves up with this massive Band-Aid and this cop-out for years of bad business that was going to start catching up to them. You know, and it's just, with the resources Juve have, the money they've pulled on all these competitions, if we get to a point where we're hiring guys that don't even have a coaching certificate, that's scary. It's scary. And I even said on that video, I said, I'm going into it with zero expectations. Zero expectations.
Yeah, it almost, you know, feels like, I think there are a lot of fans that remember Andrea Pirlo, the player, me included, who was excited about a potential, you know, once club legend, you know, coming to take over a team, you know, after what was kind of a disaster at Sarri. And, you know, there's no denying that. And, but, you know, you look at it in hindsight and you look at the previous history. I mean, going back to Cardiff even, I mean, and you're just like, this team hasn't had a plan for 4 to 5 years now. And even if they did, like, it can't be a very good one. You know, it's very, very frustrating. So, I mean, I guess to answer the original question, I understand why people want them sacked. To me, it just doesn't make any sense 3 games out. Like, if you were going to do it, there's probably a chance in January to do it. There's probably a chance against Porto to do it. There's probably a chance a month ago to do it. But now, I mean, I don't think another coach resolves it, you know?
Well, the hard thing is, too, and I think something that came to light in this match especially, is just, I think you put an experienced guy in there and he still struggles with this group. And Isaiah, actually, and I'm going to say shout out to him. He says, shout out from the Bay Area. Appreciate y'all. Look forward to this every month. I appreciate all of you, everybody that takes the time to tune in and join the lives and everything. You guys are great. Isaiah, did you notice Pirlo said today that he was expecting different players for this project? And he says he's glad that Pirlo started to speak up about being fed up. And I brought this up on a tweet there because I noticed that, and it's the first time he still took full accountability in this portion of his interview. by saying, yeah, like I failed on the planning and whatnot, and I've made errors and everything. He says, but I led the team in a manner that I believed I had different players. And to me, that's just saying like he expected more of these guys. And I'm kind of with him, especially in terms of leadership and the leaders on this team, because they've been off the pace. Let's put it.
Well, it's something to be noted about the squad itself. If you take like the leaders, right? You take Buffon, Bonucci, Chiellini, right? The next tier was almost as solid as the top tier. That would be like Andrea Barzali, Claudio Marchisio, Mario Mandzukic, Sami Khedira, Blaise Matuidi, Gonzalo Higuain. These are World Cup Champions League winners, right? Our next tier is Alexandro Quadrado. I can't really say anything bad about Quadrado. Tech, Ronaldo really isn't a club level leader. He never really has been. He's more of a leader for his country, but the club level, he's never really been, a captain, right? So you look at this next tier and it's just a giant nosedive. And, a lot of your leaders, I mean, Bonucci's worn the armband. He doesn't play regularly. Chiellini is hurt. Buffon's a backup, and Dybala's missed most of the year. So now you really haven't had a captain for most of the year. Especially these last 2 months or so. It's very, very frustrating. And I think that in terms of like the squad built, this goes back to after Cardiff, Allegri asked management for 2 ball dominant midfielders, and he was given Matuidi, which wasn't a bad signing, but Bernardeschi and Douglas Costa, who basically were like the same position and not midfielders. And then the following year, we upgraded with Emery Chan, upgraded in quotation marks, but still didn't get the ball dominant midfielders that were requested. Max was sacked, whether you agree or not. But then you bring in Sarri, who has another philosophy, and they didn't buy any players for that either. They were just kind of like, Juventus's model is kind of, hey, we're just going to buy players and you play the players that we buy. But that doesn't always work. It worked with Allegri because Allegri was a great coach, but after a while, even Allegri had trouble with some of these teams, especially in Europe. Then the rest of Serie A gets better and they actually build teams around coaches like Murta did with Conte and bought Conte players, while we're just sitting around kind of just like, hey, like we'll put a Band-Aid over it. Sorry, won the league last year. We're okay. And that's just, that's how they've operated for 4 to 5 years now. I mean, they don't even build teams anymore.
And that's just it, really. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? Yeah. You cheaped out during the CR7 project. Look where it got you. You started cheaping out on coaches. Look where it got you. It's been patchwork. And that's why I say it's just over time, it's always going to catch up to them. It's always going to catch up to management at some point, right? And now, I saw a comment out there today about Pirlo and, he should have been fired after Porto and whatnot. And then I think even at that point, again, if you're looking at this team, man, and the goals they allowed that are not a coach's fault, these goals, okay? Those go in. And, we lose, we get bounced, whatever. There were points in this season, especially January hit, and this team was actually playing good ball. They were playing well. They were in the mix. They were in the mix even up until where everything changed was probably that draw in the Derby della Mola. You and I were talking about it, Lewis, and it was like the Benevento loss, right?
Yeah.
And then the follow-up, the Derby della Mola draw. And after that, the Scudetto race kind of seemed it was done. Now it's just a matter of top 4. And then all of a sudden, the attitude shift. Even though you throw in some victories here, Napoli, Genoa, you had the 1-0 loss at Atalanta. You draw Fiorentina, and then you beat Udinese barely, skin of your teeth, and then AC Milan pumps you.
And just
it's that draw to Torino, the attitude is just completely gone. And now, again, factoring in managers and whatnot, a first-time coach to try and get a team that's almost arrogant about the success in terms of complacency and expecting it and always talking about, well, we are Juventus, like we'll fight to the end, we'll do. David Trezeguet came out and spoke today and just said, you got to stop talking at some point and get shit done on the pitch.
Yeah.
And he's right. And you talked about it earlier with these speeches, we are Juventus, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean fuck all if you can't deliver on the pitch.
Yeah.
And we haven't been. And the leaders haven't been. And we're looking to 23-year-olds to save the day. We're looking to midfielders to do things they're just not capable of. You know, you can take a midfielder, okay? Everybody wants to talk about what's coaching. It's coaching. You can't teach vision, creativity, the instincts. You can't. You can try and help them, understand certain things and kind of talk to them about what you want them to do and whatnot. But a lot of that in-game shit, you just have to have it. If it were the case and you could just coach that, everybody would just make it. Everybody would just make it.
Yeah.
And be a pro. It doesn't work like that.
Well, and I think like even in part, like this goes higher up. I mean, you take like someone like Andrea Agnelli. Remember what he said a couple years ago about the problem with the Champions League is that, teams like Atalanta, Ajax, Porto, they get in and they mess everything up. Well, those are three teams that have eliminated us. Atalanta may win a trophy we won't this year. We won the Super Cup, but they may win a major trophy that we won't. So it starts at the top, and I think that this club, I have this theory that like sort of the management at one point in European football, you needed the best player in the world to win. Right. There's years that we got to the final. We lost to Messi, Neymar, Suarez, and then we lost to Ronaldo and that brilliant team. Right. They had great individual talent. Right. And Juventus was like, hey, we got Cristiano Ronaldo. That's going to push us over the line. Well, European football flipped. It was no longer about the individual talent because Messi and Ronaldo got older. Right. It's more about team building. And Juventus was kind of like at this point where they were just like, oh, we spent all this money to rely on individual talent. But now we have no room to build a team. And they just never did. And then the move they made after that, like the next year, they went and signed De Ligt for $80 million. It was all about names. It was like they were like 2-3 years behind the curve a little bit. And now they're realizing, oh, well, like names don't win anymore. And they're panicking because they're broke.
Yeah.
They can't build a team with the financial situation now.
Yeah. We got a couple comments coming in terms of Bentancur, and AJ saying, how come some players like Bentancur were so great last year and now they're suddenly poor? I still say, even though he was our best midfielder last year, he was still fading in and out of form. Like he's inconsistent, and he has been. And Bentancur, you're always waiting for breakthrough, and then he'll put up duds. That's what happens. Dell's 09 saying you can't teach those skills, but you can drill and organize your players to work well together. Absolutely you can. Becomes a team game or whatnot. But this team would still be missing traits and abilities, especially if you look in the midfield. Because Bentancur, Rabiot, Artur, not any of those three are driving creative midfielders. They do not ever try to take on some kind of space and draw defenders in and slip past through. They're not those guys.
Well, and also too, I think in fairness to AJ's comment, I think that Bentancur is being asked to play a role that is not necessarily suited for him, which is to be a playmaker in front of the defense, which has never really been Bentancur's role.
No.
Like last year, Bentancur was very, very good because his role was pretty simple. It was, hold up possession, play box to box, and that's where you get the best out of Bentancur, right? He's not someone that's going to give you 8 goals and 7 assists. He's not Marilyn Pjanic, Sergio Busquets. He's not that role either.
Yeah.
So I think that to that point, and that is partially a tactics thing. But that's partially on Pirlo. It's also partially on the management for getting rid of Pjanic. Not saying that was the wrong move. I think that was the right move. But not bringing in a player that covers that role and just thinking, oh, well, we have this guy who we saw play there 3 or 4 times. He can do it. It's not necessarily a given. And I think that's a huge issue. But again, I think that, leaving him in a 2-man midfield, it's clear that this team plays better in the 3. It doesn't help very much. And that to me is on the manager.
But again, even through all this, okay, and I agree, the system's not what we need for our guys, but even through all this, Pirlo's systems and all this, again, it didn't go absolutely off the rails. It was inconsistent throughout the season, but I would have expected that. I would have expected that with all the injuries we were getting, the absurd amount of injuries, COVID and all that. I expected, we're going to have consistency issues. We're asking Kulusevski to play second striker when we brought him in, and he was like a Mezzala, basically, or a right winger. So I'm like, now all of a sudden he's got second striker. The whole system goes to shit without a true 9 in there. We didn't bring up a backup 9. Unbelievable. But anyways, it is what it is. You go into it. Yeah, we're banking on this guy to do something he's never done before. So it's like, it's tough. And even through all this, like I said, it didn't go off the rails until this team's Scudetto hopes died. And this is something, if you're asking a manager, a first-timer, to try and turn around, good luck. With a bunch of your core there that's seemed complacent, not only last year to Sarri, but seemed complacent to Allegri's last season. That's tough, man. That's tough even for an experienced manager. And I don't want anyone to mistake this like I'm putting up a case for Pirlo right now. I literally said he should never have been hired, But the thing is, now you're firing him. They have to have the right guy. It's got to be the right move. And you're hearing rumors about Allegri being close to the Real. See, there's going to be a lot of these rumors going around because Zidane's future is up in the air. So I totally anticipate that, right? We're going to hear all sorts of these things. They got to get it right and lock it in on the next guy for sure. So, yeah, I've been, pretty lenient with Pirlo since the get-go because I said it 9 months ago when I put the video out, you should have never been hired. Should have never had the job. And if you talk about Pirlo, it's very, very interesting. Even seeing him as a player and how he was. Could you picture him being this, everybody's like, oh, we need a rah guy. Well, you don't necessarily need a rah guy, but Pirlo is complete opposite of a rah guy because he's very, very quiet and reserved. And to be that guy, he's just not that guy.
I almost wonder if this team or this current crop of players needed the rah guy because that extra kick in the butt to be hey, you have something to play for, or hey, it's not a given that you're going to win every game just because Ronaldo lines up next to you, or just because so and so's here. This team, it has complacency, it has attitude issues above just the manager, and I think you put that combined with a very inexperienced manager who's very stubborn. I mean, Pirlo's changed the lineup 36 times. I know a lot of that has to do with injury, but 36 times is ridiculous.
Yeah, but in Allegri's last season, Allegri had 38 different lineups.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
But Allegri had 5 Scudettos to back up 38 lineups,
Well, what's the difference though?
Because
Pirlo also had to deal with a million injuries in COVID.
Some sort of play style and use 38 different lineups. I mean, this team after 38 different lineups still doesn't look like it knows what it's doing.
But we had literally an entire month and almost a month and a half, you'd say, where we were playing awesome ball.
Yeah, but usually teams that know what their setup is make some sort of leap. Well, Barcelona are doing a rebuild, right? They were awful in the first half of the year. Barcelona the second half of the year versus Barcelona the first half of the year, it's Jekyll and Hyde. A lot better. They made a little bit of a stride. You could say, hey, there's a good rebuild there. They know who to keep. They know who to sell. They know, hey, like we have a style, a formation that we're going to build around. Juventus doesn't know really who to keep. I mean, you could sell almost all these players, I guess. There's no style to build around. There's no setup to build around. There's not even the manager to build around next year.
Well, that's just it. There's nothing to build off right now. There's nothing to build off. They have to create that. It's got to start with the manager. It's got to start somewhere, though. But I mean, even the guys up top, though, like this was a major Band-Aid on bad business and bad moves.
Oh yeah.
You know, Pirlo, he's got to go. Does it even matter now with 3 games left? Like, but I'm going to tell you the truth. 3 games left. Even if you bring in someone experienced, these guys are checked out, man. They're checked out. These players are checked out. Ronaldo's at the Ferrari factory, guaranteed. You know, a little bit of a front there as he's talking about future with Elkan there. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know, and the rumors are already out that he's told his agent there, Jorge Mendes there, to find a suitor, you know, find somebody. Which
I don't even blame him anymore. I mean,
well, it doesn't make sense for club or player.
Yeah.
It really doesn't at this stage of his career, you know. And you and I have talked about this a lot. I don't think the market's going to be what he would want it to be or what it should be for him, even at that age, because of the revenue loss, right? But man, this is it's been tough. Georg, I like this. Morata did tell us to turn off the TV if we don't believe in them. The solution was there all along. And yeah, and now we look at potentially a UEFA ban. And now we talk about FIGC saying that if they go to register next year, they're still part of this Super League, that Juve will be out of Serie A. And this has fans obviously in uproar and everything. And Lou, I want to get your thoughts on this whole scenario. I've got mine, but I want to hear yours.
I mean, it's pretty wild to think that they would even like say that. The UEFA ban, I think actually like may happen. Low key, I don't want to play in Europa League, so like maybe it's better for us. No, I'm kidding. But you know, I think that the FIGC thing, I think it's all just smoke and mirrors. And I think if they really meant anything, I think that Juventus would just break their contract. But I don't think that they really have much of a case. And if it goes to the Court of Appeals, I assume that we'd be able to win that. And also to be noted on the UEFA ban, most of the teams that have sued UEFA in the higher courts, like for financial fair play and stuff, have won their cases. So even if UEFA does ban us, I think it's just a lot of like talk to get them to kind of like bend their way. I mean, the FIGC just signed a deal with Paramount and CBS to televise games nationally in America. If Juventus is gone, I don't see that deal standing.
Yeah. 2 things. First of all, with the UEFA ban, and this ties into FIGC's comments too. There's a couple of things that ran through my head immediately. When FIGC put this out, saying that if they register, they're going to be banned if they're still part of that. Number one, how can you get banned when it's already been deemed in a court that what you did and what you're trying to do is perfectly fine within the sporting world? Number one, how? What are we doing now? You know, number 2, FIGC better be very, very careful. Very, very careful. Because if Agnelli chose to battle that and they lose, FIGC would be fucked financially and not be able to cover the damages.
Yeah.
Okay. So they got to be very, very careful what they're doing there. And those are the first two thoughts that ran through my head. Anthony Scanga there, who's usually joining us and whatnot on these lives and whatnot, he put out the same thing in response to mine, because I literally put that tweet out and I said, this can't happen. It's actually ridiculous. Even the UEFA ban, I mean, sure, that'll be a legal battle for sure when a court's already deemed that it's fine. Otherwise, UEFA has what? A complete monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, if you're a fan of the sport and you think that UEFA is going to ban Real Madrid or Barcelona from a competition, you're second guessing yourself.
Yeah, it can't here. And Lorenzo coming in saying they can't seriously make this right after their Copa reforms. Exactly. And we heard that, yeah, they've pretty much wiped out the lower sides.
Yeah.
The BNI, right? So it's just funny, man, the amount of hypocrisy that's come out over this entire thing, right? But it'll be interesting to see and see what UEFA wants to do in terms of continuing on this fight, whatnot. But man, I don't know. This the FIGC there, I think they better be very, very careful, because
I think that the FIGC, they're trying to, they probably got an incentive from UEFA to say something, right? Kind of like give them a little nudge, put the final nail in the coffin. But if they're smart, which, let's be honest, they're not. They're poorly run to begin with. But if they're smart, they would look back to see what happened after Calciopoli and see that Serie A has never really been the same since the last time they sent us down. So,
yeah. Gayor coming in and saying UEFA fined their lawyers from the first year of grad school. City, PSG, etc. made a mockery of them in court. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what develops there and what ends up happening. AJ's saying biggest lesson he's learned from the last few years: winning Serie A is a great achievement. Any coach who does that should stay and be supported by management with players who suit his style. So the only thing with this is, and I know what AJ's insinuating, because we all know AJ's love affair with Mr. Allegri. So I get it. But we are literally shitting all over two managers for the same thing that happened under Max's last term, Scudetto or not. And that's a team that looks disinterested, hard to motivate, and very, very complacent, and starting to falter in Europe, and they all bounced out in the same rounds. Obviously, luck has a lot to do with it, and even in Allegri's, but also in Pirlo's, because of the brutal crap goals we've allowed. So it's hard. You have to keep things level. And like I said, Max changing, that's fine. But what they did to follow up is the same thing they've done with players. If you're going to get rid of a top-tier coach, you better have a top-tier coach coming in, just like our players.
I do want to play devil's advocate for what he's saying, and I think that there's a kind of a fair argument here. And I understand where he's getting at with Max Allegri and stuff, which is in hindsight, they kind of made the wrong decision because their replacements have not been very good. But I do kind of wonder if Sarri gets the result in the Coppa Italia and he wins the double. Like, I do wonder if he stuck around another year. Now, I was never a fan of Sarri. I didn't really like him at his stint there, but there is an argument to be made. Hey, Juventus as a club didn't really help that situation. They didn't buy players that were suited for that. And even if they were going to, I mean, if they thought that Sarri, who had never won domestically, had never won Serie A, had never won those trophies, was going to come in and magically do it in a year, I think that's very naive. And I think that one of the things is, again, this is kind of an issue, with Max asking for ball-dominant midfielders. Did Allegri want to change something? Did he have to play the way that he played in those last 2 years because, we were lacking something? I mean, these are questions that I kind of wonder if, hey, these are more experienced coaches. They saw the kinks in the armor and we're like, hey, like we're trying to fix this, but they're not getting the players they needed to fix it, right? I mean, even if you just look at like overall squad, I mean, if Berlin's the peak, right? That team in Berlin with the midfield of Vidal, Pogba, Pirlo, Marquisio, and then the next year Pirlo and Vidal are gone, and you get Khedira, who was a good midfielder, but he's not Pirlo or Vidal, but suitable. And then you lose Pogba. You replace him with Pjanic, who is a good midfielder, but not the caliber that Paul Pogba was. You keep going down, right? And it's like eventually you get to the Emery Chans, the Rabiots, the Ramseys, the Bentoncourts, who aren't even half the players as the original ones you started with. I think that there's a very valid argument of like what he's trying to say is, hey, these are managers who got you results. Like if we actually buy players that they're asking for, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
It is. Yeah, and that is a valid argument. However, again, it's what else is going on? If Sarri's there, you win a Scudetto, but it's completely dysfunctional and the roster is against him. He had like 4 or 5 players actually say goodbye to him or whatnot. Like in terms of like nobody could care to or bother to. That says a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, you won a trophy or whatever. And honestly, like after seeing this season, I mean, fuck, I don't even know how he did it. And honestly, we played like crap for a lot of Sarri's thing too. And this is another thing too. We go through the list of results with Juve, and some of the balls better than what we got out of Sarri, but we won. Like we were winning games with Sarri. I was like, I remember saying this like almost all the time on the pod. I don't know how we won it, but we won this game.
A lot of that too comes down to individual brilliance.
For sure, Dybala was massive.
Yeah, I think that like I've had my criticisms on the podcast of Dybala, but like not having him around this year, it definitely hurts. Because that's your second best player, right? And in a year like this, where your squad's already a little bit behind, like not having your second best player, it hurts. It does. It just but I think that Juventus got in a mindset a couple years back where they were just fine coasting on individual talent, and they stopped properly building teams. And I think that's one of the real issues here is that, for a while they were able to put a Band-Aid on it because individual talent was enough to beat out the competition. And even before last year, the competition really wasn't that great if you think about it. I mean, we blew Napoli out of the water a couple of years. They came close with Sarri that one year, which is probably the worst Juventus team in terms of maybe like talent the year that they came close during Allegri's tenure. And we almost lost that one, to be fair. But I think that, there is an argument to be made that, hey, this board kind of operates on its own and they don't really speak with the management. And, you've read some rumors recently about Max not really liking the Ronaldo move when it was made at the time. Like, I almost wonder if the board was even like to him, hey, we're going to go sign Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, what do you think? Like they strike me as people that just kind of like sign players and go, whatever. I mean, I know this year that they got a couple players that Pirlo wanted, but you do wonder sometimes, like I've seen this argument floating around Twitter every so often is that people say that signing Higuain and Pjanic was more to get rid of rivals than it was tactically, right? I disagree about Pjanic because I think Pjanic was a good midfielder, a suitable midfielder at the time. He was for a couple of years. But the Higuain thing is kind of interesting because he came 90 million, high salary. He was getting up there in age. And then they offloaded him in 2 years anyway. It's, you do kind of wonder when you go through some of these moves, like, what were they thinking here, Same thing is like they gave Khedira a 3-year extension and then had supposedly decided they were going to move on from Max a month later when they lost to Ajax. And they did the same thing with Mandzukic. These were Allegri players, right? And then decided, the next year came in, Sarri came in, he didn't want Mandzukic, he was gone. And the following year, Pirlo came in, he didn't want Khedira, he was gone. And, I'm not saying they should have kept them, but I'm saying that, like, the board, like, they almost make these, like, spur-of-the-moment decisions where it's like, oh, we're going in one direction, now we're going to go this way, right? Because we have to go this way. And it's like, well, we're going to start that way, and then we're going to go this way. It's never, like, it's not commitment to one thing. And I don't think, like I understand like sacking Sarri because he didn't have the locker room, but you do kind of have to wonder if the board like really like gets their whole thing, like even like the Sarri hiring, like the rumor was Paratici always wanted Sarri. He's always been a fan of Sarri. Nedved supposedly hated the Sarri move. He wanted someone like Simone Inzaghi. He wanted someone who was attacking but pragmatic, right? So that shows me that there's a disconnect there. And if there's already a disconnect there, there's already half the board's already out on it, right?
This whole latest cycle has been basically born off disconnect.
Yeah.
Because they literally undermined Beppe.
Yeah.
Well, on the CR deal.
Mm-hmm.
He takes off. He goes to Inter there. And it's born off that. And again, these rumors, it's funny because they're starting to come out there. But you remember, because we were talking in the chat, I've been saying for a while, and I said, I wonder if when Allegri was asking for his guys, he maybe raised some doubt in the ability to be able to support a Ronaldo squad on what we were able to put out there, because he knew how much coverage was required to have him. And I always wondered about that. And it's interesting to hear rumblings start out about maybe some divide off that move with not only, Beppe there, but Allegri as well, potentially, right? Yeah. It's weird. It's interesting. And then you talk about the disconnect. Hiring Sarri. Agnelli never wanted him.
Yeah.
And then it's like these two guys are even tossed up in it, and it's almost like, oh yeah, man, it's too bad. We really wanted one of these other two guys. Let's just settle for him. That's not how you do business. That's not how it should have ever happened if you were going to make a move away from Allegri.
Yeah.
You should have known 100% who the guy's coming in. It should have been a locked deal. It's like, yeah, this is our guy. This is going to be the next stage. Yeah. Not just, we'll just take him.
Well, and there could be another argument, there are some people that theorize that Juventus sacked Allegri because they thought they had a chance at Pep, right? Without actually meeting with Pep Guardiola, right? I mean, that could be a possibility. I mean, there's also the fact that when they brought in Ronaldo, they didn't actually bring in players that Ronaldo tends to play with, right? Allegri tried to do that a little bit. He tried to play a little, set up a little bit how Real Madrid did. I mean, he's not Zidane. They're different styles of coaches, that they run teams differently. But he was playing, a true striker next to Ronaldo and playing with someone in the hole like Real Madrid did before. So you wonder, did Juventus even think about that? Or did they just sign a player hoping, that's the missing piece? The coach would just put him in. It doesn't matter because we have Ronaldo. We're going to win now.
Yeah.
These are things that you kind of wonder. And you almost feel bad for some of the coaches. Now I look at AJ and I debated Allegri, right? Now in hindsight, I look at Allegri, I kind of feel a little bad for him because it's I don't even know if this board was hey, just put him wherever you want. We'll win. It's just, that's kind of their attitude now. It's just oh, well, we're Juventus. We'll pull it off. We got Ronaldo. It doesn't work like that. And Antonio Conte just won the league with Darmian as a starting wingback. They got players that fit Conte's style. They're not all of them are world being named. Vidal is old as shit.
Well, the thing is too is they didn't cheap out.
Yeah,
they didn't cheap out. They went out. He wanted a striker. They went out. They got Lukaku. He wanted midfielders. Fuck, did they load him up with midfielders? Brozovic, Barella, Sensi, Eriksson. Vidal. It's even at his age, whatever. They went out and they got all these guys. They spent the money. Yeah, they're hurting and financial troubles, whatnot. But you can't cheap out if you're going to do something. You've been cheaping out for too long.
Yeah,
it's caught up. We talked about this. They did the same thing with the manager with Pirlo. They've been doing the same thing with the players. You laid it out perfectly in timelines, and we've done it a few times on certain episodes here where you start off with the incredible midfield there, And as the years go on, it's just downgrade after downgrade after downgrade. You know?
You literally you think about this dude, Alexandro one time was a very suitable left back, right? But somewhere between Allegri's last year and now, they stopped, putting competition there. And so now you look at a player like Alexandro, who maybe could still be a good left back, but there's no replacement to him. There's no threat. There's no, hey, you need to show up every week because we have a guy that's just as good as you sitting on the bench, And there's no threat for management to be like, oh, well, we could get rid of Sandro because we have Spinazzola chilling on the bench, or we have so-and-so chilling on the bench. There's nothing there. They literally just let a squad deteriorate, and their replacements have not been good enough. Even on paper, they're not good enough. I mean, and they don't really have a plan, and they've let this kind of just spin out of control a lot. And I think that, I don't see how Fabio Paratici keeps his job. I mean, Nedved might keep it for a year because of what he did, when he was a player and the loyalty, but,
Yeah. Lorenzo saying we've also obsessed with free transfers, even when the players don't add anything to the project, which, is true. It's true. I think the whole team building aspect of it, even in talking about this, replacing guys on the same level and or with quality it just hasn't been there. Obviously now the latest La Gazzetta dello Sport coming out, and it says Juve would lose 90 million, missing out on a top 4 finish. Allegri and Zidane in pole position and extremely high tension surrounding Nedved and Paratici. Both could completely spell the end. So we're going to finish up this one with what's the next move? You're in charge, and I know we got a couple comments here. We had Yukio saying, for the last games, you line up youngsters and guys like Pinzoli or whatnot. Well, I think, again, perspective. Yes, the extra goal hurt us. It took the matters out of our own hands. We lost the head-to-head. We do now need help. It's still, we're 3 points out of second, I don't think it's at the point where we're dropping the young guys in. Could it actually get worse from what we're seeing? Probably not, but you got to stick with those guys, and you got to hope that they dig you out. What do you think, Luce?
About what the next move is, or what to do for the next 3 games?
We're going to talk about for the next 3 games and then broaden it up to...
I don't think... Listen, it's not good. We are on our last card of the deck, but it's not completely over. I mean, I think that I was listening to something today that said that Milan and Atalanta have some games where they play some teams that need points to stay up, to stay promoted. Those are all slip-up games. The fortunate thing about playing Sassuolo is hopefully they're not motivated. They just lost their coach. They're not really playing for anything. Maybe that works in our favor. God forbid. But, it's not over yet. There's still a couple games. It's only 3 points. Obviously the goal difference hurts. But, that's my positive thought for the day.
Lorenzo, Buffon starts all of them. He comes in with that comment. And actually, Buffon slated to start Wednesday's match, the midweek match against Sassuolo. And they were very, very clear about announcing that, saying it has nothing to do with the loss against Milan, and he was scheduled to play that. In terms of the other matches going on, Sassuolo on Wednesday, which will be a big, obviously, they're all big. There's 3 games left with 3 points out of second. I mean, still get in there. We need some help. Atalanta will be playing Benevento. Torino and AC Milan will be playing. Then we get to the weekend, of course. That's the big one. Juve playing Merda there. Sassuolo and Merda there. You'd like to be in a better position with those two being 2 of your last 3 matches. Tough one. Atalanta going against Genoa, Lazio and Rome playing. And then you'll have AC Milan facing Cagliari. Sassuolo facing Parma, Napoli, and Fiorentina. So, man, that's a tough little go around there. And then Lazio and Torino, of course, we'll have Coppa Italia May 19th, and then wrap up on the final day with Juve and Bologna. And Atalanta facing AC Milan, which will be a big one on that last day. Napoli, Hellas Verona, Sassuolo, and Lazio teeing up. So honestly, I expect it to go down right to the final whistle on that final day. Yeah, I think it's going to go right down to the wire. We need some help, but there's a few matchups in there where we could easily get that help.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, though. Do we have enough faith in our guys to get that job done? Right now, unfortunately, and it just really sucks to say it, but man, there's nothing right now for us to build on. You know, like you've got this inexperienced manager that's way in over his head, and in the best of times over his head. But now you have a team that since the Scudetto was lost has just been off the rails. I don't see him getting them back on track. This is literally going to come down to the players themselves.
Yeah, I mean, last year, you're going to need Ronaldo to be Ronaldo to hopefully, turn back, the time to last year. And you need individual brilliance to carry you through this because right now, this team isn't going anywhere tactically, and it doesn't, Pirlo, like I said, like he looks lost. The team looks lost. So yeah, you need a miracle, but it wouldn't be the strangest thing to happen. I mean, you also have to take into account that AC Milan until this past game have not been very good the last 2 months. They've been almost as bad as we have been.
Yeah.
And they just lost Zlatan too, which, apparently, if you heard any of their post-match, but Benacer talked about how important Zlatan was in the pre-match and a halftime, about like the words that he spoke. He gave the pre-match talk, like on the pitch. It's a huge blow in some of these games, and so we'll see. But Juventus focusing on us, we have to win out because if we don't win out, I mean, we're going to hurt ourselves. So,
and that's just it. 3 games in a row has been tough for this team. What do we do it once all season? Twice all season? Like in Serie A?
Yeah, I think it's only been once this season. Maybe
yeah.
January.
Buckle up, everybody. I've been telling everybody, buckle up. Buckle up. 2 of those matches being Sassuolo and Inter, it's going to be tough. In terms of grand scheme of things, next move. The absolute first move has to be an experienced top-tier coach. Do you agree?
You got to sack the board first.
Now, the thing with the board...
Well, here's why I say this, because if you sack the manager first and then you decide you're not going to extend the board, then the new board will come in with a manager that they didn't want in the first place, and then you're going to be back at square one. I think the board.
Here's the thing,
and then you get the manager.
It's very, very strange to get rid of the complete board while you're about to enter a summer mercado. Very, very strange after some of the deals that are taking place and what they're working on. That's why I literally say your first job, this team needs to get the right guy in because it's also going to matter on the players that are coming in and the deals that they get through. Find your guy. Find your guy first. Okay. Because a lot of guys, with the amount of uncertainty that Juve has created, if you were a player on the outside looking in, that could be the difference of you joining or not.
Yeah, I just assumed that Paratici's replacement is probably what's the guy that's his understudy? I can never pronounce it.
Cherubini.
Yeah, he would be the replacement. So whatever that they're working on, I guess I guess in that case, you'd be right. I'd sack the manager first because if his replacement's already there, it's going to happen no matter what. So yeah, I think you're right. I take back what I said. Sack the manager.
Yeah, your top tier manager. They have to have a top tier manager. Get that in. Nedved, I love him as a player, legend, and everything. I honestly have no idea what his part of the whole thing is. I don't think it's really.
I think it has nothing to do with the Mercado. I think he's there for like player service. I swear that's what it is.
That and probably like just ties with Raiola and literally like that relationship.
You hear more about Nedved like meeting with players one-on-one than you do about like him actually making a business deal.
Yeah, I think he's almost like that ambassador, like when they're scouting or looking at prospects, like Delict, for instance.
Yeah,
going out and meeting him, talk to him, and trying to schmooze him into joining. Right, I think that's kind of his thing. But ultimately, I don't think it's enough. And the team building, where's the team building from there? Because Baratici to me seems all flash, Yeah. And I think the two of them, when we had Beppe and Baratici, did well together, but it's gone backwards. It's gone backwards since Beppe left, man. So I think the board, I agree with you. Board needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Agnelli, should Agnelli resign, Luke?
Not yet. I said this last week on the podcast. They said that Juventus should be very lucky who their president is because he's present. There are a lot of teams, their president, their owners are never there. Look at all the crap that's going on in the Premier League with some of their owners. He's made some mistakes, but I don't think you write him off just yet. Now, I think if Juventus really get hit hard by UEFA and the FIGC, I think he would either be forced to resign or he'd be sacked. But I think that, currently, I think that he earns the right for a year to get them back.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he should stick around a little bit longer. I know everybody's kind of up in arms about this UEFA ban potentially and just how he's run things and saying, he's letting things go. It's time to let him go, and he's putting us in danger and all this risk and whatnot. But man, those clubs, they're pot committed. They're all in.
Yeah,
couldn't get out, right?
The Super League thing is not my problem with Agnelli. My problem with Agnelli is kind of that arrogance where it's like, look, you realize that like Agnelli lately has talked about Juventus like they're in the upper echelon with Barcelona and Real Madrid, Manchester United historically. It's like, it just
so they were coming in saying the next move, remove Nedved. Watch him throw a tantrum. Give Paratici one more season. Get a manager that knows how to do a rebuild job, not Zidane. Focus on the squad that fits the manager's plan. My last tidbit on that, whatever you decide, lock in.
Yeah.
Lock in on it. Lock in on it and actually make moves that make sense for it. Because, again, we go back 9 months ago, Pirlo, tell me how that makes sense. You are talking about having one of the greatest players ever on your roster, Ronaldo, talking about a win now window. And then all of a sudden it shifted to this, no, we're going to get young and we're going to bring Pirlo in now. Well, what the hell then are we doing wrapping up all, like go out and get a complete new team? Actually do a rebuild then. Because now all of a sudden you've got this team that's in flux that went from win now you're telling me one summer, win now to a youth revolution or whatnot. And you're going to do this with a guy that not only has never led a rebuild, but has never coached a game.
Yeah.
Crazy to me.
Yeah. I think that my personal choice, I think for the coach, I flipped on a couple times, but the more I think about it, I think it should be Max. I also don't think Zidane's going to leave his post because I think that they're going to somehow pull off La Liga like they always do.
You know what? And as these days go on, and you're sitting there and you're thinking about this club and whatnot, Zidane, like, instantly for me, I want him to be that guy. But logically, would he be doing a build? I don't see it. I don't see it. But out of those two options, I still think you're fine either way.
Yeah.
But I think preferentially, if it was a build, maybe we'll see what Max does. And to also give perspective on why we have to really be hard on the board and what they did with this Juventus side and Pirlo and whatnot, like, and why I'm not so adamant about going right after him and whatnot, because even Max in his second gig got fired pretty damn quick. Did good in his first gig, fired second one immediately. So it's like, and look what he ended up being. Ended up being in the upper echelon of managers.
Listen, there are a lot of fans, you remember this, that thought that we were done when Conte left and Allegri was the coach. That's how unwinnable Allegri was.
Nobody wanted Allegri.
Yeah. But, I think that the advantage for me of bringing Max back is that he understands the squad. He's seen a lot of these players. And I think that not just attitude, kind of that like old school kick you in the butt attitude, but also he would know right away who to turn over, who to keep, what you can salvage, what you can't, because he's seen a lot of these players before. Even if it's 2 years where it didn't work out, he's still like a good starting point because he understands that squad.
Yeah. Christopher Jardina joined us saying this side was set up for failure for the season. Honestly, poor leadership and no direction. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we've kind of really got heavily dug into all this, and it's the same stuff going around. It's the same stuff that we've all called and seen for quite some time, and it's just frustrating. But I really, really pinpointed, because people are talking as if Pirlo is just like really, really shit the bed all season, which isn't really the case. It isn't really the case. And it was literally, and this is why I personally am putting it really down to a lot of these players as well. When that Scudetto race died, I saw the attitude just plummet, just absolutely plummet. And these guys on the pitch, they're looking worse than some of these sides that are about to get relegated this season. They literally look that bad. It's that tough to watch. I can't recall, even in the banter era, a Juve that was this unenjoyable to watch. I literally cannot name a Juve side that I didn't like. I've almost walked away on this team this season multiple times. Can't believe. But in talking about banter, history, everything, when things get frustrating, I like to start watching classic matches. And I've been digging through the footballia.net, everybody. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's fantastic. It's got an incredible archive of matches. Absolutely insane. But I want to ask this question, and for everybody joining us live, let's have some fun. Let's try and leave it on a bit of positive note about good memories about Juventus and whatnot. And I wanted to ask Lewis, one match you could go back in time to and put yourself live in the stadium for.
Juventus related, I'd like to see the infamous game where they killed the Galacticos at home, 2003.
Oh man, that's literally my go-to anytime this question pops up.
Non-Juventus related, I'd like to see Barcelona thrash Real Madrid at the Camp Nou. I think to be in that atmosphere when Barcelona basically doesn't let them touch the ball for 80 minutes and they win 5-0 would be something.
So Juve for me, it's gotta be that semifinal in Turin, Stadio delle Alpi, against Real, 3-1 victory, 100%. The main men scoring too: Trez, Del Piero, Nedved. Awesome. honorable mentions. 06 win against Inter where Del Piero bombs the free kick right in the top corner late. That would probably be up there. Shout out to Higuain's winner, 3-2.
Oh,
away.
yeah, that's a good shot.
Away to Inter would be actually stellar to be there amongst Juventini. Christopher Giardina throwing in one there. Away game, Juve at Tottenham. And then home game beating Barca 3-0 Champions League. Those are great shouts. I think the Atletico comeback would have been
I was just thinking about that.
Unbelievably epic to be at. That was incredible even just to watch from my living room. My daughter was a newborn at the time, sitting in my arms, and I was just like losing my mind, trying to do everything I can to not drop her from celebrating. But those are up there. Non-Juve related has to be 2006 final for the Azzurri shootout, just to watch them hoist the World Cup for sure. But no, that's one of the things, man. There's so many good memories, and these ones are tough. But man, it's like right now is a great time for Juventini to go check out some classics.
Yeah,
go check out some classics, and you know what you'll also see, and this is another thing too in terms of perspective. Shit. Lewis, you came into this squad when we were going through the shit.
Yeah.
You became a Juventino through our darkest days. Okay? Yeah. So you've lived through it. I've lived through it. So many of our friends here that are joining us have lived through it. And honestly, we'll make it through this.
Yeah,
it's gonna be all right. We'll get it together. We've been through worse, but when you go and watch these classic matches, look at some of these sides Juve had and weren't able to win Scudettos certain years.
Yeah,
like we've had some amazing sides, and then you even want to talk about Europe and whatnot. Capello kills me because the squad he had at his disposal. It baffles me he couldn't achieve more with that squad. And especially his last year, like that squad was absolutely incredible. So I want to ask you your favorite Juve side since Juve, like your favorite Juve team, the strongest Juve squad.
Well, the strongest for me is always the 14-15 team.
Yeah.
Being kind of, I've been a fan since 06 for anyone watching this. So that's the strongest one. My favorite though is 11-12. I mean, I think that one just has a special place for me.
Yeah. So we got some more matches coming in from fans here. AJ and Lorenzo just posting those up. So 14-15 even makes it in there for me of one of my strongest Juve sides. The 06 side before all the shit went down was unbelievable too. 2003 is probably my favorite Juve team, without a shadow of a doubt. In the 90s, of course, the team that won, 96, strong team. The years that followed, very strong team, 97, 98. And then, of course, in the 80s, we arguably have the best Juve team, but I can't speak to it. Like those mid-80s sides with Platini and Scirea, Gentile and all them, Caprini and whatnot. That's for the older than me fans, the strongest Juve sides ever. So it's interesting to see who the strongest is from when you guys have been following. Christopher throws in 14-15 as well. AJ throwing in the 15-16 team was so underrated. That was a good, really strong side. What's that?
The 15-16 team, I agree with that. That's my second favorite squad. That run they put together to win the league, and they got so unlucky in Munich because they literally had no subs for Munich. Like Mandzukic was he'd missed a whole month before he came back for that game. Like that game doesn't go into extra time, they would have won.
Yeah,
unlucky.
Yeah, 15-16 was an underrated side, I will say that. And Yukio saying he started supporting Juve 04-05, and yeah, those were the strong sides Capello had Bello had strong sides there, and always wanted more out of him. He ended up being nicknamed Crapello. Yeah, underachieved. But yeah, enjoy some classics, guys. Honestly, it's rough out there right now. Who knows what's going to happen? All we can do is have faith, continue to support, and hope for the best. We'll let the dust settle, see what happens at the end, and then move forward from there. But again, there's been darker days. So let's see what ends up happening. And you know what? Maybe this will be, we've been asking for a wake-up call even amongst winning some of these Scudetti. During an incredible run, a decade of dominance, and think about it, we've been asking for wake-up calls in terms of how they operate business and the moves they make. So this would be the ultimate wake-up call.
Yeah.
They don't wake up now. I don't know, but that's why I just have a tough time believing that they won't. They will snap out of it. We'll get things right. It's all good. It's all good. They'll figure things out.
Yeah, it looks really grim right now. But if you look around, like Murda financially almost as bad as us. There's rumors this week that Conte's going to ask for incentives or he's going to walk. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not yet the banter era 3.0 or 2.0, whatever you want to say. There's hope for this team. It dropped 16 points against the bottom 6 teams. It's not, it's not pretty, but it's not a total impossible comeback. It's going to be difficult.
And to be fair, a lot of those matches we should have been burying. So it's not all that bad. We'll get it sorted out. First things first. Find that top tier manager and get him in there. Start there, get the stability back, and let's go. But again, there has been darker days. Juve will be back. I have faith. Have faith in the club. We'll get things right. The old lady, she never dies. They tried to kill us, and those were the darkest days, and they couldn't kill us. This stings. But it won't kill us. And it'll make the bounce back even sweeter. It's not goodbye, Scudetto. It's see you later. Juve will be back. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Thanks, Lewis, for taking the time. I know it's super late there, Eastern time, but always an absolute pleasure having my man join me. And thanks, everybody who joined in. The chat was awesome tonight, and it was really, really good, especially considering circumstances. But enjoy tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be back for a match day live on Wednesday before Sassuolo, and we'll get ready for that one and hopefully kick that one off with the victory and start the 3-game streak that we absolutely must have. So tune into that, to the Match Day Live, and we'll tackle some of the surrounding news, talk about the build-up, and have some fun, get some predictions, and go from there. Until then, check out some classic Juve matches, and I want to hear which ones you guys have been watching at the next show. Ciao a tutti, Forza Juve, fino alla fine, sempre, no matter what. Ciao.